7QQ. Ross.
Well, as we all no doubt have been aware, the stock exchange has been in the news continually in recent weeks, with many stories of fortunes lost in the latest crash. But trading reached an all-time low yesterday in the centre of London, with Mayfair changing hands at a mere £400 and Fenchurch Street Station only £200. Yeah, you've guessed it. They were playing Monopoly. They find the new British champion who's joined me today, Mike Grabsky. Congratulations, my man, eh? Tremendous. Now tell me, how many games did you actually have to play till they sifted you through to become the champ?
There were 6 games in the heats and then one single final game yesterday, which all rested upon.
Is this your first championship?
I entered it 3 years ago and I came 11th, so it's my second.
It's 11th to first, not bad going, eh?
Thank you.
Now, have you got to be quite an unscrupulous sort of person to play this game? Because I know I love the game and I'm rather sort of devious, to say the least, when I play.
I don't know if unscrupulous is the right word. It's a very skillful game, Monopoly, and probably the average family player, there's a lot to it they probably don't understand. But basically what you're trying to do is do deals with people who ultimately you're trying to bankrupt. So I think probably shrewd is the correct term.
Shrewd is the word, eh? Now, Victor, you're in fact a chairman of the Warrington's Corporation. Where did the game actually start? I mean, I mentioned the stock exchange. Was that instrumental of the Wall Street crash?
It might have been, because it was invented in the Depression period in the States by Charles Darrow, an unemployed heating engineer from Philadelphia in the USA. But I don't think he appreciated what a marvellous game he'd invented. The world's largest games manufacturers turned it down twice, so he had to make it himself to start with.
Was it over 360 million copies games you've actually sold?
Well, around the world, it's 150 million that have been sold since
then. A lot of games.
They said that it was too complicated.
So where did it actually start, though? Where was the roots of the game? I mean, was it an American idea?
Oh yes, an American game. And in fact, the American game is based on Atlantic City, the sea coast resort over there near to Philadelphia, whereas the London one is based, the England one's based on London, of course.
Smashing. Now, actually, the War Commission, they commissioned the Monopoly, didn't it? You told me earlier about...
Well, yes.
You've actually brought one along here, and this is amazing.
Yes, during the war, we were printing silk maps and doing all sorts of things. My father, who was running the business then, actually was called upon to produce a special department to make special games, including Monopoly, for prisoners of war. And I've actually spoken to people from Colditz who played Monopoly. Played Monopoly then and received this. I mean, here, I don't know if you can see it. They used to split the board open like that and slip inside it things like silk maps. Those are other silk maps we used to produce. And money and files and all that.
Was the money actually for
well,
the currency? If it was in Germany, for instance, they had actually Deutschmark or whatever?
Deutschmark, or Reichsmarks, I think it was in those days. Yeah. Inside the Monopoly money, yes.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing.
And quite a few people escaped. But you mentioned that. I think the most interesting thing recently was, do you remember the great train robbery?
Ronald Biggs.
Ronald Biggs, yes. They were playing Monopoly while they were planning their robbery. And it is true. And their fingerprints were on the game. And we were called in to give evidence. And it was the fingerprints on the game
that got them?
That helped to get them, yes.
Do you think Monopoly, in fact, is going out of date? I mean, has it kept up with the... Because there's loads of other games coming into fashion now. I mean,
it still sells very well. It's still a marvellous game to play at various levels of skill. I mean, Mike's quite right. It is a game of skill. But there's enough luck in it that the poorer player can still win. And if you're behind in the game, you can still take a gamble and possibly win. And that, you mentioned up to date, there's no question of changing the values.
That's right.
The game is an institution. It's sacred.
Well, just up the road a little bit, Victor, we've got the diplomacy champion. Yesterday in Birmingham, you won that. Jim Mills, well done. How long have you been playing it for? Quite a while?
About 13 years or so.
Now, I gather it's a sort of game about world domination, and you won it for the second time. Now, what was your country?
I was playing France and Austria.
And you won with Austria, is that right?
I won with both my games with both those countries.
Not a very... I gather Austria is not the country to have.
Generally speaking, no. It's a very difficult country to play.
Now, I'd go for like Russia or USA. I'd go for the big mega powers. Is that right? But what's the best country to have?
Probably France, but it's hard to say. All games are different when you play them.
Yeah. Now, I gather you actually can play it by post. Is that not correct, John? You're sort of you're sort of an instrument, this sort of thing. tell us more about the postal situation? I mean, isn't it a bit boring? I mean, doesn't it take a long time?
Not really, Ross. Thousands of people all over the country find that they can't find enough people to play the game with in their homes.
Yeah.
So they play it by post. It takes about 2 years. The games move...
2 years?
About one
Play
move...
a game?
Yeah. About one move every month. But there's a lot going on in diplomacy. And you spend a long time writing to the other players, trying to agree on particular moves.
So now I grab one of your little booklets here, and it's like an introduction to postal gaming, and you've got a few hints here, and this is that amused me. You said, attack the weak, persuade others to attack the strong. It said, apologise to your victim immediately and point out the very good reasons why you were forced to take such drastic action. Remain on friendly terms. Is this generally the sort of idea you should for diplomacy? Is that the sort of thing you should...
That's right. It's a very cynical game.
Ah. Now, Diane, you play a lot of games, but I mean, you have a particular favourite.
Yes, acquire.
Acquire. Why acquire? Why not diplomacy?
No, I can't sit for 8 hours playing one board game. 2.5 is my limit, and it's as calculating and as wicked and evil as diplomacy, I found.
Now, John, you mentioned something earlier about the IRA, oh, I shouldn't say IRA, but there was a little sort of mix-up you had. What was it, in the post or something?
That's right. Some years ago, when there was terrorist outrage in this country, we had one player who got hauled up by the special branch because somebody had been rummaging in his dustbin and had found a letter from another player in the game saying, I agree with you, let's attack Liverpool.
Cracker, eh? A cracker. Now, I think I'm going to have a wee game here, actually. I mean, I'm afraid I don't know diplomacy all that well. I think I'll have a wee bash here. So, my man, I think you and I are going to, like, get started. Are there any sort of mannerisms you've got to use, actually? I mean, like blow into it, all that, no? Right, you ready?
Good luck.
I am the battleship, because I'm always
You
the
are.
battleship, and I don't want to land in Mayfair,
don't want a
so I want
7.
an 8. An 8, right, here we go. Luck be a lady tonight. 1, 2, 3, let it rip. 7. Oh, no! Oh, no! That's about £1,400, are you?
1,400.
Only Ross Davidson could wangle a job where he got paid for playing ball games. Anyway, my other mate, Chris Baines, the gardening chap, is now travelling